Tanner, I was talking with Tanner one day, and he gave me this really great analogy. He gave me some advice when I was struggling with one of my painters. He said, "Bro, they're like," he's like, "I don't mean this in a bad way." It's like, but in a lot of ways, it's like herding sheep, and you're the shepherd, and your painters are your sheep. Your job is to make sure they don't get startled, make sure they don't get scared, make sure they come to work, they know what they're doing, right? You're not throwing them a curveball, because this was when we did like a nicotine house, and I had a couple painters up in arms about it. He was like, your job is to make sure, that they have a good job to come to, that they're not startled, they're not scared, they don't fall away from the herd, because if they do, they might get eaten by wolves. He didn't say that part, but like that's how I interpreted it.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe.
All right, let's do it. What's up, everybody? Michael Hickman here, founder of PainterGrowth.com, and you're listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. And today, round two, Eric Fozz, who was a marketer and now is a painting contractor. I love it. And he is currently in the depths of production. I wouldn't even call it production hell, but he's been going through the ups and downs of production as we've all been through. So what's up, Eric?
What's up, dude? Happy to be here.
So first question, what is the hardest thing that you didn't realize would be difficult starting a painting company?
The management of painters. Both in-house employees and subcontractors. So I'd say at first it was the actual recruitment of good subcontractors. I assumed that was just going to be pretty easy. I've always done pretty well with recruiting on the marketing side and finding good people, and then figuring that out on the painting side, or on the W-2 side. On the W-2 side, it's been less of finding the good people in the recruiting. Like, we've done pretty well with that with our previous experience. But the management of painters, again, I assume that would be easier just because I have several years of management experience now. I think something we do really well on the marketing side is I think we've built an awesome culture and an amazing team. And I think we have really good management. But I've learned that managing a painter, managing a in the field labor person that makes $3,000 a month or so, at least in Cleveland, is a lot different than managing the remote team member that's a client success person or a salesperson or a marketer that makes $5,000 to $7,000 a month. Like, they're just different types of humans. They think differently and they need to be managed differently. So it's definitely been a skill set to dial in a little bit on my side.
So what specifically have you noticed? Like what makes what are the traits that you notice that are different managing your now painters versus your remote team? Because you've been managing a remote team for 4 or 5 years now, and now you're getting into the in-person painting contractor, right? You're right, completely different type of human. So what have you noticed are the specifics in terms of how you have to manage them and the difference in their personalities?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, just how they think, right? And we screen for all that stuff, right? So we're screening for values, our core values and how they think and all that sort of stuff. But it's just different, right? Again, the team member making $3,000 a month in a labor position, they're going to have car issues, often, frequently, a lot of them, right? And they need a car to be able to get to their job, where that's not the case in remote. Again, if you're making $5,000 to $7,000 a month, it's way easier to have good transportation. A lot of painters I've found that and these are the good ones too. I don't buy into there's no good people out there. That's crap. We've got some great people on our team that hold our core values and are amazing people. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with baggage and other things that are hard to deal with, right? A lot of them come from less great backgrounds, and divorces, and didn't grow up without a dad, and some of those other things that just make life hard sometimes, and make them see certain things through a certain lens. A lot of them too have had bad experiences before with other bosses in the trades, right? So I found I really got to work hard to build that trust with them and let them know I've got their back, and I'm not going to be like all their other employers they've had before. That was trying to skimp them on pay or this or that, right? So it's all those things that I don't have on the marketing side,
Yeah, you're dealing with all the baggage that they've had. If you're hiring someone who's painted for 20 years, they've had a lot of bad bosses over that time. So you're having to work through that. I totally get it. It's like dating a girl who was just out of an abusive relationship, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, literally, it's exactly that. and they've often had abusive relationships, to use that term, like with previous employers, and again, a lot of times with just their past, with bad partners, husband or wives or boyfriends, with parents, with brothers and sisters. Like, they can be amazing people that hold our values and work hard and do all that sort of stuff, but still have some of that stuff they're working through that makes, again, just the management of that person, the motivation of that person, a little different.
Mm-hmm. So managing the people has been one of the aspects that you just mentioned is different than, I guess your expectation was challenged with how was managing your current team versus managing painters. Any other like broken expectations or things that have turned out to be a lot more difficult than you thought they were going into the painting business?
Honestly, not really. I mean, production's been hard. Like, production has been the most challenging thing. The rest of it's been pretty easy. But I think
what's the worst job so far? What's like the biggest blow up? The thing like that one. What's that one job that just came to mind?
Bro, and literally just wrapped up with it yesterday. Yesterday we finally finished it. I'll circle back to that in just a second, but it's the production that's been the hardest part. Probably because in a way I've had to learn that, right? I've had to learn how to be a painter. And ways to paint rooms and all these different things and equipment. I've had to learn that stuff I don't understand. But even then, like, how to paint the room isn't that hard to figure out. Figure that out pretty quick. But again, it's then the management of the people that are managing production, which is where we're hung up. And we've made a lot of progress. I think we're getting pretty close. But like I said, we finished actually a project yesterday, which was a wild situation. The first homeowner that's actually really challenged me at all. I think I jinxed myself starting this painting company because I told myself, I'm like, dude, I deal with contractors. Like, I deal with painters that have incredibly unreasonable expectations in terms of marketing and all sorts of stuff a lot of times, like that oftentimes also don't come from the best past and stuff too, right? Like, dude, if I can manage painters, I can manage a homeowner, man. Like, how bad can it be, right?
Yeah.
I think I jinxed myself because and for the most part, that's been true. Dealing with homeowners in little situations have been super easy so far. But we had one yesterday where it was this really weird guy who'd been this project for like a week and a half. And, the team had made one or two small mistakes early in the project. The prep wasn't quite as good. A little bit of paint got on the doorstop and a little bit on the floor and stuff. Little thing, totally valid. And then it just became this nitpick fest where he was upset about things that were just factually incorrect. He was upset about a previous drywall patch that he or somebody else did, thinking it was paint. It's like, look, man, I didn't say this, but this is what I'm thinking. Like, man, I'm no paint expert. I'm no Nick Slavic master crafts person over here, but I know paint does not. I know when paint dries, it doesn't form in the shape of a square and extrude from the wall. Paint doesn't do that. So, and then he would blow up and scream and tell us that we were a bunch of liars and all this sorts of stuff. He didn't trust us to hang a mirror. It just got really, really weird really, really quickly. He told me where it kind of ended was 2 days ago. He told me how this has been so stressful for him that because of this, he's been losing sleep. He's been drinking too much and developing a drinking problem, and that him and his wife do not like the person he is becoming because of this project.
Oh,
so he said that. I was like, man, nobody should be developing a drinking problem because of their painters. And mind you, like our painters aren't the typical rough around the edges painters. Like, they're super polite. They're super respectful. I think we've handled this with so much class and everything. So eventually we got to the point where I'm like, dude, look, if you're developing a drinking problem over your painters being in your house and doing really good work, like, we got 2 more rooms left. Let's just part ways from here. And we were finally able to exit. But
he's got some deeper demons there that he's got to deal with. That it doesn't start.
And that was the short version of it too. He was accusing us of damaging this furniture and stuff, and like in a room over from the room we were in. So of course I didn't have pictures of it. Only took before pictures of the rooms were actually painted. That's the short version of the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's it was wild. So
yeah, I mean, we've all had jobs like that, right? Unreasonable homeowners, and it's like almost impossible sometimes to identify who those homeowners are ahead of time, right? Like, people can just
we I think again that's something we've gotten good at, right? Like, on the marketing side, we say no to a lot of people that catch our red flags and stuff. As we all know, there's amazing people in this industry, and there's a lot of bad in the industry too. we went back and we've looked at the estimate, the sales call with this guy. We've looked back at all of it, and I don't think there's anything we could have done. There's no red flags prior to like day 2 on the job with this guy. So as long as there's only 1 or 2 of those a year, it's all good, you know?
Yeah, you can deal with it. So what are the challenges that you're having right now in terms of bringing on a production manager, right? Because like like when I tell painting contractors, there are 2 major pivot points that are really challenging to get through in any growth of a business. The first is hiring your first painter or your first crew. And the second is hiring your first manager, right? They're just like step changes in your business, your income, your freedom. So what challenges have you faced that maybe were unexpected or expected with bringing on a production manager?
Yeah. So I actually just let go of my project manager, production manager last Friday. So yeah, all very, very fresh. And that was the second production manager we brought on. I really say it's the first production manager we had. I kind of had different expectations of how I was bringing on the role. I was planning on doing it a little differently and more parts of the business being virtual. And really the intentions was hiring more of a quality control, just kind of like drive-by check-in than more of like an actual manager.
Mm-hmm.
So, recruited at different pay scale, different expectations, different skill sets, etc. Then when that role kind of changed, he wasn't a good fit for it anymore, all good. The second one that I had hired, I felt really, really confident about, and it just wasn't there. I think it's a couple of things, man. I think a little bit of painting experience does help, but I don't think it's at all necessary. With this guy, it was in a lot of ways just values, and I think we do a great job interviewing. I think we do a great job with all that stuff, but even the best interviewers and the best HR people are still going to get it wrong from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
and we got one wrong, we got duped. And it's all good, right? His leadership skills were very poor in terms of managing people, setting expectations. He wouldn't follow through on his word. Just all sorts of little things like that just made it not a good fit. So that's been tough. And again, I think part of that too, that's probably making it a little harder for me than maybe other people is like it's not like the painters on our team. I've had the one crew for a year, and I've painted with them every day for 6 months. Like that's just not the case.
Yeah.
Our painters, one's been there 2 months, the other's been there a month. I am around, yes, but I'm not around as most people would be. Like most painters that have 2 painters, they're with those painters the majority of the day. And I'm with them maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours a day max, because I'm running 2 companies and I'm running a marketing company and all these other things. And that's the priority. That's the baby. So that part's been tough. And then I've been trying to bring in a production manager in a lot of ways I've been trying to bring in a production manager to help build the systems while I build them, rather than just bringing someone and plugging them into the systems. So that's where we've kind of pivoted, and we're going to hold off on hiring a production manager for the time being. We're going to get to 2 crews of 2. I'm going to be the production manager, make sure the systems are in place and solid. Then we're going to re-bring somebody back into that
And documented.
Have more success. Exactly.
Yeah.
Where right now we have the systems, but it's like, because we're so new and we're figuring it out, it's like, cool, yes, we have this system as far as here's how we create projects plans for a job. But as we do another than 2 jobs, 3, 4 jobs, we're like, we need to change this with it. And that's always going to happen with any business, right? But right now we're in that stage of it where it's like something's changing every 2-3 days, it feels like, as we're dialing it all in and figuring that out. So we need to get through that stage a little bit first before we bring somebody into it. Otherwise, the person we need that can come in and build that would just have to be such a higher level caliber person.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's like I don't mean this as a dig on anyone in particular, but you're just casually starting up a 2 crew plus production manager painting company as a side hustle. It's like one of those like weird flex, but okay.
I didn't mean it like that, but yeah, no, I get it. It has, and I've said this for a while with the painting company, but it's forced me to play the game of business differently. Instead of being the doer, and then as I do it more and more and get stretched, I replace myself, because I already kind of had my time stretched. So it's forced me very much to to look at this painting company as I'm more of an investor, more of a consultant,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm moving the pieces around. And hey, every now and then as the investor and consultant, I got to step in and fill a role for a little bit and get a system in place and then replace it. But it's like with most of the painting company, there's really no duties outside of like general manager duties that I have done consistently for like more than a month and a half. Like I
Yeah.
did the sales to make sure we had a proof of concept, put a salesperson in. Like did the coordination for a little bit to make sure we kind of had proof of concept and a decent little system in place, put somebody in there. And that's kind of how the whole thing's had to go. Just given
Well,
the
you're
nature
also
of my time and
you
everything.
said this last time, and you're building the business from a very different position than most people, because where most people have time but no money, you have money but no time. So that
Yeah,
forces you to
funded.
solve problems
Exactly.
with your money instead of with your time.
100%, right? Like that really painful job we were just talking about. I'm very lucky where like most people with two painters, this is a $7,500 job. Okay. Um, most people, if they were to walk away from that, they spent a week and a half on this job, about $1,000 in paint, and supplies and stuff. Most people walked away from that as two people. That puts a lot of painters out of business. So they're taking out a loan to be able to do that. I'm very lucky that I was able to just say, you don't owe us $1 because I don't want anything. I don't want you calling us for anything. I don't want to. You can't complain if it was charity, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm able to walk away from that where a lot of people couldn't.
Yep, 100%. So that's I mean, that's there's pros and cons to each situation, and I think that most people would probably prefer to be in your situation than struggling and having to solve problems with time. But again, it's you built your first business and decided for some reason to go through the pain, and it's like you didn't have to do it, but I'm certain it's building you a lot of credibility and respect among your clients and other painting peers.
Yeah, I hope so. That'd be cool.
So what have you had to realize or change with yourself as a leader, now leading two companies with completely different types of people?
I think it's different for both companies. On the marketing side, it's been really cool. And in a lot of ways, I think I got kind of not lucky, but a little bit of luck and a little bit of just perfect timing with other things where, most of the marketing company, I can spend 30 minutes inside Slack for a day and the marketing company will run just fine. Every client will be taken care of perfectly, flawlessly. I find myself more and more lately coming to Slack at the end of the day, and all I'm really doing is responding to threads of conversations other team members have had and gone, yep, you guys nailed it. Awesome job. Hey, yeah, this looks great. Like, remember this, but great job. And like, that's pretty much it. So honestly, if anything on the marketing side, that's just a combination of several team members really, really stepping up and doing a fantastic job. And, now we have several team members that have been with the company for a year, 2 years, 2.5 years, right? So they're more seasoned. They get it. And I'd say if anything, where my leadership style and things have changed on the marketing side is just being more of the fun uncle in the room, right? The positive person, the person that comes in that gives a little bit of coaching, a little bit of feedback, but a lot of just positive reinforcement that they're doing all the right things. And that's just where that business is at, right? That's just the team we have in place, right? That's what they need. And on the painting side, like learning to manage painters, I think it's forced me to be a little bit more empathetic for sure, and have more empathy because again, they come from some of those different backgrounds and stuff. So certain things that, I wouldn't tolerate with my, with people on my marketing team, I got to be a little bit more empathetic to certain things. Tanner, I was talking with Tanner one day and he gave me this really great analogy. He gave me some advice when I was struggling with one of my painters. He said, bro, they're like, he's like, I don't mean this in a bad way. It's like, in a lot of ways, it's like herding sheep, and you're the shepherd, and your painters are your sheep. Your job is to make sure they don't get startled, make sure they don't get scared, make sure they come to work, they know what they're doing, right? You're not throwing them a curveball, because this was when we did like a nicotine house, and I had a couple painters up in arms about it. He was like, your job is to make sure that they have a good job to come to, that they're not startled, they're not scared, they don't fall away from the herd, because if they do, they might get eaten by wolves. He didn't say that part, but like that's how I interpreted it, and it has. It's on that side, it's changed my leadership to a little bit more of like, I got to protect the team. I got to make sure like they know what they're doing, they have a clear path, but that like, at least for our painters, like I want to make it as simple as possible so they don't have to think, They just got to come in. Dude, if they're having a bad day, they struggled even getting in today. Great. I don't need to throw them other curveballs. Make it as easy as possible for them. Don't startle or scare the sheep.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's one way I've had to kind of adapt my leadership on the paint side.
That's cool. I haven't heard that analogy before, but I mean, Tanner's a wise man. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel at all like you've let your foot off the gas, so to speak, with the marketing company being so not so focused, but just having another thing taking up a significant portion of your time?
No. I'd say it's different and it's changed, and I don't think this is the honest answer. Just straight up. This is the real shit. The way we've approached the growth of the marketing company has changed slightly, but not really due to the painting company. We went through a pretty rough Q1 and Q2. And the timing of that was horrible because we started the painting company right at the beginning of Q2, thinking everything was going to be smooth sailing because we were in a great spot. And we went through some really rough patches. We kind of had to go through and purge a handful of clients and fire a bunch of clients that just were bad culture fits. They were negative. They were bringing other people down. They were bringing other people with them. It was just it was messy. It was ugly. It wasn't fun. And I won't lie, like there's trauma from that. Like there's trauma from that. So we are very picky with who we bring on right now. We say no to a lot of people. We've put a 3-strike policy in place, and I was talking with the team today. We're probably going to fire another client in a couple of days, and he's in like his first month and a half. Like we're not tolerating some of that stuff because it was so painful. The last couple months have been great, and it's been calm and it's been awesome. But that took a really painful 6 months of going through and getting rid of a bunch of bad clients and resetting certain expectations and everything. So that has changed in a lot of ways how we go about the sales side of the marketing side. That has changed it much more than the painting side has changed it. You know,
I mean, that's a good realization for any business, right? Once you get to that critical mass where you're no longer, not needy, but you're not as needy for clients. You can be a little pickier. And the more in a position of power you are, the pickier you can be. And that makes everyone's life easier, particularly your frontline staff.
Right. And that's not saying we don't want to grow. We don't want to help more people. We don't want to have more impact. Like we want all of those things. And that's why we do it. Our team loves playing the game. We love growing. We love breaking down new walls, new barriers. We love the impact we have and seeing how we're changing these guys' lives and businesses and stuff. Like it's amazing. But exactly, instead of trying to help every single person, like we're going to help the people that we know are a good fit for us and our team. Because I can't put my team through what I put them through, dealing with the people they had to deal with. Like I can't, like you can't run a business that way, just like the client, I was just describing on the paint side, like that was tough, man, for our painters. Like that was mental warfare for them, man. This guy was like walking in, like trying to teach them how to paint stuff. And like, it was ridiculous. Right. I got to protect them. I got to protect my painters too, right? It's the same thing over this side. So.
Yep. Totally get that. And I think respecting and putting your employees first, a lot of people always say the clients first. I disagree with that. I think your employees come first, because if your employees are taken care of, your team's taken care of, your clients are then automatically going to be taken care of. And you're going to have a lot longer relationship with your team than with your clients.
Yep. And that was a really cool moment, I think, as we talked about some of the production issues and, on this last client, again, I have to work a little harder to build some of that trust with our painters because they have some of those experiences. They got to see me. They got to see a client blow up and scream and yell, and they got to see me stand up for them. Mm-hmm. Right. And we got to have that moment where I told them, I was like, look, when you guys mess stuff up, I'm going to come down on you. I'm going to come down hard on you guys because we got to improve this stuff. However, like notice that I'm also going to stick up for you guys. If you guys are doing everything right, if you're following our SOPs, if you guys are busting your butts and doing things correctly, and it's something outside of that, like I'm going to stand up for you guys too. You guys aren't going to take shit from people.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Here's an interesting question. Hopefully you don't rustle too many tail feathers with this one. What do painters complain about that you found really easy? Like, I can't believe you guys complain about this.
It's a lot of things. They just like all the back end stuff, which is probably like it makes sense, right? Like given my background, it makes sense that the marketing and the sales side and the business side of it have come easy to me and the team. But it's that stuff. Like, dude, selling paint projects is not that hard. I mean this like super nicely, but like when I did the handful estimates I did month one before I passed it off to our sales guy, like again, I mean this nicely and with as little arrogance as possible, but like I felt like I was using like 70% of my skill set. Like I was bored. I'm on these estimates and they're virtual, right? So I can like have something else up on the other screen and whatever. Like I'm bored doing this. Like it wasn't nearly as challenging as selling like a B2B marketing biz op ROI based offer. Aside from that one example I had yesterday, the client success stuff's been easy. Like taking care of homeowners that are a little flustered on something is easy. The admin side, it blows my mind. It blows my mind that there's businesses that are at significant risk and sometimes go under because they don't job cost. Like it takes freaking 5 minutes at the end. Like it's just not hard. Those are some of the top ones that come to mind.
Are you still not you, but is your salesperson a virtual salesperson, or are they doing in-home estimates now?
No, he's virtual. He lives 2 hours away from our service area.
Yeah, so you're like 100% virtual sales still.
Mm-hmm.
What are your current metrics around that in terms of close rate, average job size?
I'd have to look where he's at in the month of November so far.
Like
we finished October. Yeah. Approximately, we're consistently above 30%. I'd say we're hovering anywhere between like 32 to 38%, give or take a little. Average ticket last month was about like 4,200. And we've pretty much exclusively gone interior.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's winter now. Those are very healthy numbers, even for an in-person business. And are you like, what type of gross margin are you maintaining on those jobs?
The goal's 50. It's been so hit or miss on some of them. Some of them we've nailed, knocked out of the park, and it's 50, 55%, 61%. And we've also had some that, we've gotten a little wrecked on and have been closer to 30 or so. Yeah. But we went through before this last job we just did that I was telling you about with the difficult client. We had a really good stretch of things consistently falling in that 45 to 55 range. Where I was getting wrecked a little bit was because I'm new, my Sheran prices were still super, super high. So like our job costs would come back great. We were like 29% labor on a project and then like 18% materials, 23% materials or something. So I finally called Sheran and I finally have it on volume that my prices jumped down a lot. So that'll help. But
that's good.
But yeah, roughly speaking, we're sitting in that like 45, 40, 50 range.
I got to get you on my Painter Growth National account.
Dude, yeah, please. That'd be great.
Yeah. So one thing I like to make this podcast actionable and educational, not just entertaining, which so far has definitely been entertaining. And I hope other people are feeling that too. Job costing. Let's just jump into that for a minute because it's a pain point for a lot of people. You find job costing really easy. Walk me through your workflow.
Yeah. And I will say this, it's certainly probably easier with one crew. You get 2, 3, 4 crews, it's certainly a little harder. But all you basically need is a way to track hours to a specific project and to know your materials for a specific project. That's pretty much it. And I guess know how much the client paid you. But if you can't figure that out, like that's a problem. But the other part's really easy. You give your job name to Sheran, done, right? And then when I go job cost, I go into my Sheran account. I click view all transactions. I click Control F and I search by the thing and I add up the different transactions for that job. That's my material cost.
And what if, what if you get a Home Depot receipt? How do you add that?
Yeah, that just gets kept. And noted in our project management software. Because we do have some of those every now and then. Like we've had to rent scaffolding once or twice, right? So that just gets noted in our project management software of $100 scaffolding rental.
What software?
We use ClickUp for that. Okay. We're currently shopping a couple others to try to combine.
I would not recommend ClickUp for the average painter.
Oh God, no. The average painter, especially if you're going to build it out from scratch. I've given my template to some people and they've done well with it, but like, it can be tough.
Okay.
In terms of the hours, so like right now I've kind of taken Nick Slavik's jump sheet format, and obviously switched up different parts of it and everything so that I'm tracking hours directly to the job right there on the jump sheet. And then I'm just plugging that into the hours times their labor rate. That's how much I spent on labor, done. But also, if you were using any time tracking app like a Clock Shark or whatever, right? That's what we're going to use as we expanded to Cruise. Cool.
Yep.
We go right in there and see how many hours were spent on those jobs, and that's it. It doesn't takes a couple minutes.
You pay by the hour. You don't pay piece rate yet.
No, so I'm hourly with a bonus structure, and we've revised that bonus structure several times, and I think we finally got to a really good one where, very simply put, kind of the simple explanation is each job has a certain amount of budgeted hours. Our painters know that ahead of time, right? They know that coming in day one, and they can make a project plan and try to beat those budgeted hours. And then any budgeted hours they beat, we essentially take those budgeted hours and take 75% of that extra and give that back to the painters. And then it's weighted by how many hours they worked, right? So if one painter worked 10 hours on the job and the other worked 5 hours on the job, the person that worked 10 will make more, right? Then that total is divided by basically an extra hourly. And that's it's worked pretty well. We've had some jobs where the team has just crushed it and they made like $30 an hour on a job. That's freaking sick. Like,
so that's a quasi piece rate for sure. It's just about piece rate. So that you give basically. So if it's a 100-hour job and they get it done in 80 hours, that remaining 20 hours you'll give them 75% of.
Exactly. And the reason we do that is just so the company also wins for it, right? Everybody's going to win. We have a little bit extra there as well. So
yeah. And what happens if they go over budget?
Right now, nothing. We're figuring that out.
Just they get their hourly rate.
Yeah, exactly. They just get their hourly rate. The part of this we're going to be implementing as we go, and this isn't totally like my idea. I took this from a guy, Mike Andes, in the landscape space. He has a thing he calls pay for performance, which is I've taken a lot of those ideas, not his entire system, but a lot of the ideas over. And he has something he calls yellow slips, which is something I'm planning on implementing as we fine tune this, which is basically like then if there's a callback, there's something that needs fixed, if equipment wasn't taken care of, right, sprayer wasn't cleaned out because they were rushing to get the job done, quickly or whatever, then a yellow slip gets issued. They have to go fix that. And the hours they spent fixing that comes out of the next bonus. So that way it's not just people rushing to get stuff done and being sloppy and constantly having callbacks that aren't penalized.
Yeah. Could I give you a couple tips?
Please. Yeah. Free coaching call with Mike. Let's go.
Yeah. So number one, I would make 2 small changes on the comp structure. And it depends on your painters too and their personalities and whatnot. But one, I would give them the full budget. Like if they beat it by 20 hours, give them the full 20 hours. Because if you have a fixed percentage on labor, then you have that fixed percentage. You know what the company is going to expect, and you want them to be that much more motivated. So if you can maintain that 50% margin, you don't need a 53% margin. It's not going to make that much of a difference to you, but it will make a bigger difference to them. But on the downside, if they're sharing,
when they go over,
they need to share in the downside. So you have a mutually agreed on minimum wage that they will make if they go over budget. Some people go all the way down to minimum hourly rate in their state, but some people would say, all right, your minimum hourly rate is $20 an hour. If you go over, you'll make as little as $20 an hour. Hopefully we don't do that, right? There's trust that's required there.
Yeah. And I played with that a couple times. At one point I had it there. At one point I was thinking I'd go 50%. And that's kind of where we settled. So I get you. I've had that same exact battle in my brain a little bit as well.
And then on the quality side, if you can have a bump for a 5-star review, right? They get
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We have that, and for if they collect any referrals or leads while they're there.
Perfect. Love it. What are we even doing here? You got it.
No, I appreciate it. Those are good things to remember and think about.
Yeah. No, you got to, I was always the mindset, like I would rather pay my painters a little bit more, and the next job, they're just going to be that much happier. I mean, you know what it's like.
Yeah, I had we had one where, cause it was tough, man. Like at the beginning, like I've been telling them about this bonus structure, and they didn't earn it on several ones because they kind of made some mistakes. We weren't following the SOPs, etc. And I could tell it kind of felt like this carrot on a stick for them, So I just stopped talking about it for a little bit. And then they had a job they absolutely crushed. And of course, on one of the days too, one of our painters wasn't there because their car broke down or something or whatever. One of them was sick. So our one painter worked. It was a small job. It was a day and a half. but our one painter worked like 10 of the hours. And when we got to the next job, I was like, hey guys, did you know you bonus on that? They're like, what? And I was like, yeah, Chris, I mean, that was only a day job and you earned like $143 bonus. You guys were at like $28 an hour on this, and their jaws like dropped. And dude, you bet when we walked in that next job, they were like firing on all cylinders, so excited and stuff. Cause it's like, yeah, you saw, you did a great job. Didn't have any callbacks, crushed it, worked fast, hustled. And then also Chris, who was here and worked more hours, got more rewarded for it too, because she did most of the work on that job. So yeah.
Great. Are your painters doing the walkthrough with the client, picking up the check?
No, I'm doing that at the moment as PM.
That's a great.
Well, honestly, most of them were just billing. Yeah, you pass it off to your painters.
Yeah, because then they have ownership over it. You have a painter and a job site manager. They're both painters, but one just has slightly more responsibility, maybe $1 or $2 an hour more. And now that's their job, right? And so they do the walk around the homeowner. You give them the SOP or the script or the process or whatever. They do the walk around. They do all of the touch ups. They clean up and they get paid. And then you don't even have to go back.
You have your painters picking up paint too, normally, didn't you?
Yeah.
When you were doing it.
Yeah.
So
it was my production manager, but then he was so busy because he's running like 6 crews. And he's just like, Mike. So I did a priority management exercise with him. We looked at what he was doing, what to get rid of. And it turned out like if we could just get off picking up paint from his schedule, his life would like go back to normal. So we moved that to the painters and compensated them for it.
So then what about at the beginning of the job? Are your painters also calling the homeowner saying, hey, we're headed your way, we'll be there in 15 minutes, texting them when they get there?
So the production manager would be, so his name's Ryan. So Ryan would be scheduling the jobs with the homeowners and the main point of contact. So the night before, he would be calling the homeowner saying, hey, my painter's going to be there at 8 a.m. and or between 8 and 8:30 if they had to pick up paint or something like that. But say it's 8 a.m. So my painter's going to be there 8 a.m. Here's what to expect, blah, blah, blah. Sound good. And so Ryan was also the one that like did the color sample with them, potentially like scheduled or did the pressure washing if it was an exterior.
So Ryan's doing the project what I call coordination.
Yeah.
And then passed a little bit of the management to the painters.
So he was still picking up checks, but he wasn't doing the walkthroughs.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Because like the way I have it split, and I think people do this a little bit more with subs, but I have a project coordinator who's the one coordinating the color samples with our designer, the one touching base with them on their schedule and when are they going to fit in the schedule and all that sort of stuff.
You have that as a virtual role.
And then exactly. And then the day before the job, they're like, hey, Eric, our project manager is going to reach out. And then I reach out, hey, Susan, blah, 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 blah. I get there with the crew, do the walkthrough, et cetera. But you could, I mean, at a certain size, right? I'd probably $1 million a year or so, give or take a little bit. You could probably, if you were able to pass some of that responsibility, some of that time consuming stuff to the painters, pay them a little bit more, give them a little bit more ownership, you could probably make that one role, have your PM do a lot of the coordination, I'd imagine.
I mean, we didn't have a coordinator, so the project manager did that.
I have Sheran delivering all our paint too, so like I got out of that. Freaking, oh my god, love that.
Do you use the Pro Plus app? Pro app?
I have it, but I just call them and place the order and tell them I need it delivered. Yeah. I found a store. So we had like several jobs in just this one city. It's just kind of how the cards fell. So we kind of got to know those people at Sherwin. I got talking with the guy because I was trying to figure out their system. And I didn't know this. Maybe every painter listening to this knows this, but this was like huge to me. All the Sherwins compete against each other. The guy at Sherwin was explaining to me like all the Sherwins compete against each other, and that like he would literally deliver one paintbrush 45 minutes across the city because that means he's getting my sales. Even though he wouldn't call the Sherwin 5 minutes from me and have them deliver the same paintbrush, they would. So I'm like, this makes no sense. And I was talking with him and just the way it fell, he's like, if you moved all your sales here, you'd be like in our top 15 accounts. I'm like, dude, we're just getting started. So like, I just moved my home store there and they love me and they deliver everything all over. It makes no sense, but it's like, I know how the game is played now with Sherwin. Great. I'll play the game. Sure. You can go deliver me. They're delivering a 1 quart of black emerald paint to a job site today, 50 minutes away from their store. And they're thrilled about it. I'm like, you're spending more in gas on this big truck to get this here, but they're thrilled that I didn't have to stop at the job site this morning.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think more people need to take Sherwin up on that. on their delivery service. I mean, they have a lot of features and stuff, and we did negotiate a national account with them, so we do have like a national account similar to what a franchise would have, just for our clients, which is pretty cool. I wish it was a bit better, but we're always working on making it better and negotiating and stuff. But they have tons of stuff, and it can save people so much time if you're able to leverage it like you, and then like you're leveraging it with your money. You're not even paying them, but like you're leveraging things because you have to leverage things because you don't have the time to actually do it.
Yeah, definitely. It saved a ton, right? Just saved a ton of that silliness, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we can make a little shift here. Are you spending much time on your marketing company right now?
Where I'm spending time on the marketing side is the overall strategy, right? Coaching the team members a little bit, and don't get me wrong, some unique client situations here and there that need me to jump into it. But I'm super lucky, man. Like our client success team right now, and I know every business owner says this at different points. I've said this before too, but like our client success team is so good right now. It's ridiculous. Like I am not needed for most of client success. Like I said, I normally just come in Slack and I see the conversations and I'm like, you guys did great here. Awesome job. Yep. Great. You said it better than I would have, Sonia. That's it. Yeah. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So, I get involved with some, higher level client situations like finances or these other things where they may need some extra help on stuff, or, they want to try to test some kind of new crazy marketing ideas or something. I'll jump in there and help a little bit. But for the most part, the team really handles it. I'm really, really lucky there. So I am involved, but, at that capacity,
So I think initially when you were starting your painting company, you thought it was going to be a lot more hands off, right? You were kind of like toying with this like remote painting company at the start.
Yeah, I was expecting to go give the job to the sub. The sub goes and does it. Quality control person drives by, make sure it's good, collect the check, and leaves. And yeah, and if that would have worked, it would have been right, because getting the marketing and the sales and the admin systems in place has been very easy for me, right? The virtual sales is exactly what I expected it to be. Everything else has been exactly what I expected to be, been perfect, textbook. But yeah, when we switched then from subs to W-2s, now that's certainly a lot more involvement. It's a lot better. I like it way more. But it's a lot more involvement. And I haven't built a team of in-house painters before and hired a production manager before and done that. So there's a little bit of a learning curve with that.
It's almost like when you were like romanticizing the idea of creating a painting company, you just severely underestimated the human element, right? The human element of the clients, the human element of the painters, and the human element of the production manager. Yeah,
and most definitely the human element of the painters, and the actual production component for sure.
Yeah, and it's like, every painter that you have has such a different personality and needs to be led differently. I'm just thinking through like my past painters and the painters of the clients that I've like done site visits with, and everyone has a different personality. And you want to treat everyone exactly the same, but you can't just paint everyone with the same brushstroke.
But
there you go.
But it's true. It's 100% true. And you learn generalizations and you learn certain pieces and parts of that. But yeah, now you're in a different industry, different territory, different types of human beings, different, generalized stereotypes, and you got to adjust those skill sets and stuff. So part of the game.
Yep. So what do you think is like the next step for your painting business? Because like, do you still want to get it to that point where it is like basically hands off for you, or are you kind of in a weird, sick, twisted way enjoying this production and like connecting?
Yeah, no, man, I actually think I'm going to kind of just fold it in here at the start of the year. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, exactly. That's the same goal. I mean, look, we've kind of been in this painful spot for a couple months, but like once production is there, I'm removed. I'm just the general manager. Like, for example, we had that nightmare client yesterday. So I just told like our office team, our appointment setter, our salesperson, our coordinator, hey, I'm effectively out of office today. I won't be on the morning meeting. I got to go take care of this. And I had zero doubt in my mind everything was going to run flawlessly. I actually like, I would rather, if I could only, we have a morning huddle. It's like a 10-minute meeting, go through objectives for the day, that sort of stuff. I'm both painting and marketing. And if I had to pick one to be on, I'm actually going to be on marketing. I have more impact there. The painting, like they don't need me, man. Like it's, I got these projections. They know how to sell it. They know how to handle the objections. They know how to set appointments. Like they can answer their own questions. They don't, like, that part's been easy. So as soon as production's good and we have a great production manager and we figure that out, however long it takes, if it takes 2 months, 5 months, a year, 2 years, doesn't matter. As soon as we figure that out, I'm effectively just general manager and just coaching the people. And then eventually we'll have a general manager. And yeah, that's still the goal to get there.
Yeah. What do you think your new timeline is on that?
I don't know. The goal is by the end of the month to have our 2 crews of 2. And we have a 3rd painter starting on Monday. I'm going to look at a couple more vans this afternoon to get the 2nd van. So the goal is to have 2 crews of 2 by the end of the month. And then we're going to kind of chill there for another month. So through to December. So by January 1, the goal is to feel confident in our production and have 2 crews of 2 and be hiring the production manager come January 1.
Yeah. Yeah. 2 crews of 2. That's a solid business, doing between 40 and 55 a month kind of thing. If you can maintain solid margins, and even with management structure, it's a pretty profitable business.
Exactly. Yep. That's kind of, I've identified too, that's our tipping point, because we're very top heavy right now, just given exactly nobody at this stage would have a salesperson and an appointment setter and a project coordinator and whatever. We're very top given the nature of my workload on the other side and things I have to do there. I've identified that point. If we can have 4 painters in the field producing consistently, we'll be able to cover those expenses and start turning a profit, which would be great.
Yeah. That's awesome. Any so keeping in mind that most people who listen to this podcast are painting contractors, do you have any words of advice for people who are in the trenches right now, from lessons that maybe you are unique to learning based on your experience coming in from a marketing perspective, solving problems with money instead of time?
Yeah. I guess, man, two come to mind. The one that I think everybody would expect from me, and is cliche to say as a marketer, but marketing and sales really can set you free. I'm not really worried about winter at all, even though it's our first winter, because I know how to market and sell. I know how to get customers. A lot of those things aren't as scary to me as a new business owner because of that. So it really can set you free. And buy you a lot of your sanity back by really understanding those skill sets. And the other one I'd say is that I think I have the unique ability to do, just given my position, that I think a lot of painters struggle with, that I watch painters struggle with, is the ability to think a little bit more long term, to see beyond this week and the next week. And sometimes that's really tough, man, when you're trying to figure out how to make payroll next week. It's really tough then to tell the client you're going to bill them less and not have to make a happy customer. It's really hard, right? And it's way easier for me to sit there from the privileged position that has funding from another business and do that. But from me being able to do that and make different decisions because I'm looking at what this painting company is going to be in 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, I've watched other people not do that. I've watched 2 subcontractors burn bridges with me because they were worried about being able to pay a bill by Friday rather than a relationship with me that could get them paid for years, right? Like I've watched clients make decisions like that, but within their own businesses, right? Like the ability to look beyond the current problem you're facing and look long term. How is this going to affect my business in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Is hard. And I think if you can put yourself in that headspace and do that long term, you will be ahead of a lot of people.
It's hard to do. You need to be able to manage your time, priorities. And it's hard to think about next year when you're thinking about what job am I going to be on next week. But at some point you do got to do it.
Dude, sorry, you just made me think of a third as well that I'd say that I started noticing in a lot of clients we work with after me doing this a lot. I think there's this belief with a lot of painters that have they have 2, 3 painters painting with them, and they're on site every day. And they don't have an office team yet, right? And they started as the painter, right? And they trained those people. So they've never just like left the job site for a couple hours. So there's this belief that if they leave, their painters are just going to like sit down and stop painting, or they're just going to mess everything up or something. And it's like, dude, like they probably won't. Like you can give some instructions and go leave and come to a Panera for a couple hours and get some work done on a computer and, go do some estimates or go do this or that and whatever. And I think that's a big gap too. I've realized in a lot of people.
Yeah, you got to give you guys more credit and give them what do they say? Give them enough rope. Give them some rope, but just enough to strangle himself with. I can't remember how that phrase goes, but I don't think that's necessarily the right one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I know, Eric. I know you got a lot on the go, man. Thanks for taking your time, sitting with me today, taking the call from Panera. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah,
in
dude,
the flesh.
In
Painting
the flesh.
contractor Eric.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, stoked to hang with you in a couple of months in Orlando. But yeah, dude, good luck on everything. And yeah, reach out anytime if you wanna jam on painting.
Absolutely, dude. I appreciate it.
All right, see you, man.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.